In this short video, we're going to be looking at device eligibility in terms of migrating off of enterprise firmware to MPP firmware. Let's start off with some documentation. The most important one would be cs.co/mpp-master-guide. And here in this document, it contains a wealth of information. And on the back of a 7800 series phone, for example, you can actually see the hardware revision. And if that hardware revision meets the minimum requirement. So the 7821 requires version 3 or higher, and of course this is version 1. So this contains other information as well, such as for the 7861. The conversion process is also outlined in this documentation, as well as links to other conversion information. If you don't have access to the back of the phone, then you can access it remotely via the web browser built into the phone. And here you can actually see the hardware revision. So as you can see, this is not version 4 or higher, so it is ineligible. A great way to determine eligibility is to use the actual updates and migrations field inside of the control hub, and then we will go to the migrate enterprise phones to MPP firmware, and then we can create a new task. We'll give it a name, and then we'll select generate device license only, and here we will fill out the template and enter in the MAC addresses. You can see here the default template that is provided. I will now populate this with my values for my phones. And I have now populated the values in the table with my own devices. Now I will upload them. I have uploaded them and I'll click next. And you can see now the tool is now analyzing the various devices that I have uploaded. So you can see here that we have some eligible devices and ineligible devices, as well as some unknowns. So for these 7841s, you can see that it says eligible. So this means that its hardware revision is 4 or later. For the 7975, that's ineligible because the entire 7900 series is ineligible. For the 8875, this is a new device from Cisco, and it does not even need migration. So it can register on-premise or to WebEx calling with no firmware migration necessary. And for these unknowns, these are a special case where there could be a problem with the MAC address or some other reason. So what we can do for this is use a tool that was developed in-house by Cisco in order to be able to discover the status of these unknown devices. So we will run that tool, but before we do that, if we wanted to export or download all of this information, we just click download, and then we have this information contained in a file. And here you can see the contents of the file download, as well as the MAC address and its eligibility status. This is the location of the tool on GitHub, and so we'll go ahead and download it and execute it. So here's the tool, the Cisco Cloud Readiness Check. And we put in the IP address of the UC manager, our password, login, and you can see we can check boxes for the 78 or 8800 series, and we can also enable temporary phone web access for best results. So I'll click submit. As you can see, it has populated the results here. We can see a MAC address, the model number, the firmware, as well as a serial number and hardware version, and whether or not it is MPP capable. This concludes verifying device eligibility for WebEx calling.